So let's talk about information. Let's talk about information. This is what we'll be discussing. We'll be exploring changes, as I said, in the information landscape. We'll investigate new forms of information distribution. And then we'll talk about some new skills that we need in this information abundant world. So I want to take you back to a time when I was 10 years old in primary school here in Amsterdam. Not here, but in Amsterdam. I wrote 3 school reports. One was on the opera Carmen, one was on the moon, and one was on Einstein's theory of special relativity. So here's what I did. I went to the library in my primary school. You'll be seeing a lot of my drawings today. This is me at 10 years old. I went to the library, right, and I looked at all the books they had on Carmen, all the books they had on special relativity, and all the books they had on the moon. And I was very aware, because it was physically true, what the limits of the knowledge available to me was, right? I could see they have 8 books on this, they have 8 books on that. What I could also see in doing my research is this vast world out there that had more information. I contacted another library and they sent me some more books on a theory of special relativity. And I was also acutely aware of sort of what happened outside of the walls of this library that I was in, where there was many, many more books and many, many more sources of information that I wasn't having. But what I'm trying to sketch here is that my experience of building knowledge, and this is not just 10-year-olds doing school reports, but anyone's experience of building knowledge was quite physically, spatially, and sort of the awareness of the limitations thereof were very, very tangible, right? I can see the walls of the library. So in this world 20 years ago, the question, the problem statement that we dealt with at the time was, how will I get all the information that I need, right? This was the only thing you needed to make sure of. How will I get the information that I need? Now I know, because it's day 3, that I don't need to explain to you what has changed since. If I wanted to do the same report now, what I would do is I would Google it. I would Google Carmen and the moon and special relativity, and I would get 2.3 billion results in 1.5 seconds. You now understand some of the exponential technologies that have come into play here, right, that have caused this to have happened. But if we extend the metaphor of me in the library at 10 years old, right now I look something like this, right? And I'm in a library where I can't see the walls anymore. In my lifetime, I can never make it from one end of the library to the other end, let alone figure out what happens outside of that library, right? And what kind of other sources of knowledge are out there. This is a fundamental shift in how we relate to our information. And that makes for a huge, huge difference in how we engage and how we inform ourselves. There's a researcher called Jamie Bartlett, whose book I strongly recommend, and he says the following. He says, can I do this way? No. One of the most important and sudden changes in politics for several decades has been the move from a world of information scarcity to one of overload. Available information is now far beyond the ability of even the most ordered brain to categorize into any organizing principle, sense, or hierarchy. So this sudden shift is what we see in this problem statement, right? Is in terms of like, how will I get all the information that I need? And we'll return to the part where he talks about our ability to categorize that. So if we have the problem statement that we used to have, this, how will I get all the information that I need, that's now solved. How do you get all the information that you need? You can take out your phone and you Google it, right? So our new problem statement is, how on earth will I make sense of all this information? And like I said before, this is where the personalization of this process comes into play. Before, you could send anyone to a library and you just say, go inform yourself, bring me a report or whatever. But when it comes to how you make sense of all of this information, how will you set the parameters of relevance? How will you categorize? How will you decide what the scope of your informing and your knowledge building is? That's on you. And that is a fundamentally human task. In fact, with a lot of the technologies that we have, right, we can do a lot of the finding more easily than ever, which means that the sense-making, deciding what is important and why and how we're going to get that, is ever more important and ever more in our hands. So that means that we ourselves are now in a way more crucial position.